Okay, good. So maybe you have a question to start things off a little bit before we get into it?
I was just going to introduce myself. I know many of you may know me as Richard's brother and all that, and I think it's funny, and that's how the whole meme started. But I just want to let you know that you can refer to me as Shane. That is my first name. My name is Shane Schuler. If you have any questions, feel free to help me out. But I am more than just Richard's brother. But I'm excited to be here and listen to what you guys got.
Okay, nice. Thanks a lot. I think 5 minutes is good, so why don't we get started? I'm sure a few more people will tune in over time. But so we have a couple of people here that are, I think, more from the Pulsechain community, and then we have a couple that are from the Cyrator community. And we are, so just as a summary, we are a decentralized crypto review platform. Anyone can come and apply to be an analyst on our platform. They do have to be approved by the existing analysts. And to get in, you need to write 5 reviews to show, that you can write unbiased reviews and things like that. Then the community can vote to approve you. And once you're in, you can write reviews about any projects, whether they're high caps, low caps, live, pre-sale, whatever they are, and also in any ecosystem. And of course, you can earn tokens for writing reviews, being uploaded, things like that. And we generate value for the token through income stream from like ads and private reviews and various different streams. So we've been in a kind of live beta since February 2023, where we tested a lot of the features. The most important ones are how we make sure that people don't promote harmful tokens and things like that. That's our purpose, is to really allow people to share knowledge and help each other find great projects and help each other stay away from dangerous projects. That's what our intention is. And sorry, I'm just getting a message here. Having a couple of people asking how they can come in, so I'm just going to reply.
So I got a question for you guys.
Yes,
what is the process for potentially, or the solution or the plan for potentially removing harmful content that you find, or something that you just see as probably a scam? How does that work?
So first of all, that's why only verified people can come in. So that's already a big hurdle. And then once you're in, any analyst can flag. Eventually, they'll be able to flag an individual post. For now, there's a proposal system. So you can go on the platform. There's a menu on the top right. You can start a proposal, which is anonymous. And then you can basically make a case for why a review is harmful, might be a scam or something like that. Now, you should support that with a lot of evidence, screenshots, whatever you might got. You can put that in there. And then the community of verified analysts can vote to agree or not. And we've actually had cases where we've removed people not for promoting scams. It was more they had, like dual accounts, and they were basically trying to game the system for earning tokens and things like that. But that's how the proposal system works, at least until now. We are planning to have a big upgrade of the entire system, which is planned to launch in February, where we change a little bit how the whole thing works, where we will have analysts who write daily reviews and news updates and things like that. And then we have basically curators who have to stake tokens, or analysts and curators have to stake tokens, and they vote on what is the best content on the platform. So you get lots of content very daily, and you get your most important information every day. However, these verifiers, the curators, they can also flag and downvote content. And we are going to launch a subscription service where people can pay $3 a month to get very early access to all these reviews, the most important reviews. And eventually they will be the ones that vote on whether flagged content should be removed or not. And this is a really important step, because once you have paying customers, even though they pay very little, $3 a month is designed to be very little so that almost anyone can do it. But because they're paying to get content, they obviously want to get reviews that are helpful for them, that keep them away from scams, that then bring them great projects. So they have the right incentive to remove that kind of content. I'm sorry if that was a very long answer, but it is a very complex problem, of course. And it's one that we've now iterated several rounds over to find the best way to do that. Does that answer your question?
Oh, that's a great answer, man. While you were saying that, a couple popped up to mind, but I'll just ask you one question. That $3 fee, what are you taking that in? Is that taking in the token, or is it US payment or any currency fiat payment? What is that in?
Yeah, we will probably accept several currencies. Of course, you can pay with credit card if you want. You'll be able to pay in several stable coins. Probably not stable coins, because it'll be very hard to just constantly change the price and things like that. Also, we are going to change the rewards model from token more to stable coins that people get for writing the top reviews. And a lot of that income from the subscriptions will be paid out for daily rewards for analysts who contribute to the system.
That's great. I really like that idea of paying out stable coins instead of the native token, because people might take that and dump it for stable coins. But if you just pay them directly in the stable, then you won't put that sell pressure into the token. I like that idea a lot.
Exactly. So the token will actually be more, again, players. We call them players because the whole system is becoming more gamified, both the writers and the verifiers. It's a more gamified kind of thing. So these players have to lock up the tokens to participate. Initially, they'll have to lock up 10,000 of our tokens, which we're calling Cure, which will cost you about $300 at public price. And then we are aiming to start with about $500 to $1,000 in daily prices. So your average earning will already be $10 per day. So in 30 days, you can basically win back if you're a good curator, you can win back your staked tokens. And then after that, you can basically profit from that. Yeah, that's the model that we're hoping to launch in February.
The rate again?
Sorry? The rate?
Yeah, the rate.
Yeah, so the average, we're planning to pay out $500 to $1,000 a day in prize money. And we're not entirely sure. We're probably starting with about 100 players to begin with. So the average earning will be $10 a day for verifying content. But of course, if you're the one who always picks the best content, then you can earn quite a bit more. So if you have to stake $300 worth of tokens to access the game, which you have to, because if you're verifying scams and things like that, you'll be slashed and penalized. Basically, in 30 days, the average player will already have made their money back, and then they can continue playing after that. And of course, they get their money back once they unstake their tokens, but they'll be locked for, I think, at least 6 months to a year. That's one of the reasons to lock up tokens, but then also the paying customers can lock up tokens to get access to premium information, ad-free spaces, things like that. Projects can lock up tokens to get verified badge on their listing, get analytics on how many people check out their project and things like that. Yeah, that's how we're changing from our current model to the future model. Yeah, cool. I see there's quite a few people here. So maybe I talk a little bit about Pulsechain and our plans with it. I personally have not known much about Pulsechain, other than what most people knew in the last year or so, and personally was quite skeptical about it. But I've met a friend here personally, which I think you guys all know. The Mandingo Swap, CEO of Mandingo Swap, right? And he just told me so much about the community and what you guys achieved and what you've done and how active you are. And it's just very slowly, I'm personally learning so much that I'm changing my mind about the community a lot. And I can see how much potential there is. And he has seen how many projects we attract, especially very early stage projects that haven't launched on a chain yet. And then he saw this opportunity that if we come to Pulsechain, and it's not like we can partner with your decentralized community and Curator goes across many ecosystems. But if we can integrate more of your community into our platform, we saw the opportunity of communicating to many of the projects that come to us to be reviewed, to improve, and to look for a chain, that we can actually bring them to Pulsechain. And we both believe that many projects want to do so, because having a strong community is one of the most important things in any decentralized systems. And that's what many projects are looking for. To put it maybe in a bit clearer terms, our goal is to help the Pulsechain community get the projects that are already on Pulsechain, but also to help them review new projects that might come and provide a flow of projects that might come. And then basically be able, I think you guys already seen the kind of the list that we've put up on Pulsechain. By the way, we want to do that with many other ecosystems as well. One after the other should start to be listed there. But the idea is that when new projects come in, they can go through our review process. Pulsechain community can participate in reviewing these projects. And when they end up having a very good rating and review, hopefully they can consider actually launching on Pulsechain for the various benefits that it brings. Any questions about this? Questions or ideas are also very welcome.
I'm a developer from the Pulsechain community. I launched a project called Proof of No Work, and I have just a lot of insight into this community. And the Pulsechain community is definitely someone I think that would be interested in this project, because a big gripe amongst the community is the gate. There's a lot of centralized platforms like CoinMarketCap and Binance that have hidden Hex and Pulsechain and PulseX from their market cap ratings, or other popular platforms that tend to talk about the biggest Pulsechain projects or the biggest projects in crypto, oftentimes ignored Hex. And I think that this community would be really excited to have the opportunity to tell their side of the story and engage with the rest of crypto, because people feel so isolated and alone, and there's a difficulty in bridging other people from outside of our ecosystem because there's so much misinformation. I think there's a big opportunity to get people engaged in this. I think that's just something they would definitely be interested in, and people want to tell their side of the story too. I really like this platform, what you guys are offering here. I think Pulsechain is the right move.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm personally quite excited about it, but I think already now where we are merging our two communities, I think we can see that it's not this hurdle that you guys have, this kind of gatekeeping with other systems. I think that's also existing here. And I can see both what I've known about Pulsechain and the initial kind of perception I had and what I'm learning now. I can see it's very difficult for people to understand even what Pulsechain is, to put in perspective all of the negative, of course, information that is out there. And some of it, I think, is also justified criticism, right? What I've personally now come to understand a lot, and what gets me excited a lot, I don't hear a lot about these positive aspects that Mondingo Swap has been telling me over, and the really the power of this community and all of that. And that's something, maybe it's more, I'm saying that here as a recommendation and as a suggestion. When you guys write about, actually, I've told you PONW. How should I call you? Just PONW, or what's the?
Yeah, that will work. PONW dev, whatever, man. I just want you to say PONW. That's my project.
Okay, good. PONW. Yeah, I recommended you before that you should write the community review on Cyrator, because from what I understand, the community is really the biggest aspect of Pulsechain, right? And the thing is, if you look at crypto in general, like the technology of a project is not that important. Bitcoin is as huge. I know you don't like Bitcoin. I've read your review. But Bitcoin is as strong as it is because of the million miners that it has, the community that it has. And that's the decentralized system. Is, if you want a fast and secure payment service, you probably should go for a centralized service, right? It's going to be with one server that's going to be much faster, right, in terms of transaction speed and stuff like that. So for me, it's very clear that the size and the strength of the community is one of the most important things for any crypto project. And from what I understand, Pulse actually has one of the biggest and strongest and most dedicated communities in crypto. And that's why, even though I still have some reservations towards the chain and things like that, and I equally have excitement for it as well, but I personally really just want to highlight a lot more and understand a lot more what the size of the community is, the power that it has. That's just a recommendation to you guys. If you can actually write reviews on our platform, that gives a lot more facts about what the power of the community, the size of it, what they have achieved. I think that will be very helpful for a lot of other people to understand as well. Yeah, so I think that is just generally what we're trying to achieve over the coming few weeks. So I would if you guys are here or listening later, if you're from Pulsechain, I highly encourage you guys to sign up as analysts and to review projects in the Pulsechain community. What's very important is that you are factual and objective. If you come in and just rate everything 5-star that you love and say, I love it, I love it, I love it, you will most likely not be approved by the community. I personally like some of the reviews I've already seen on Pulsechain from PONW as well. That was quite objective in saying not everything is great. You've listed the issues as well, and you've listed what you like about it. So objective reviews like that are what the platform is about, and then you will be accepted in. So help curate the content and exchange information in the ecosystem, and then also join us reviewing projects outside of the ecosystem, because I think the value that we are all here for is to exchange knowledge and find great projects, whether it's within the Pulsechain ecosystem or outside. Our analysts have been identifying many great projects very early on, and we've all been able to benefit a lot because of it. So I think if we look less at who is from which ecosystem and from which community, and focus much more on how do we share knowledge and how do we help each other benefit in crypto as a whole, I think it will be a very powerful joint community that we have. Any questions or ideas or anything?
I do have a few comments also.
Sure. Yes, please.
I think for me, I compare a little bit the Pulsechain community. It's a really strong one, but it's a little bit also, to a certain respect, a bit like the Bitcoin maximalist. But for me, I like opportunity across the board. It doesn't matter where it is. If there's a good project that solves a real problem, I'm all behind, regardless of what chain it is built on. So with the system of Cyrator that has the gamified model, if you have a community that is bigger than others and really tight-knit, like whether it's Bitcoin maximalist or Pulsechain, how do you prevent that community from overpowering everybody else and basically being able to funnel more return and growth to everything that is, because you risk some bias and lack of diversity if it behaves like that. And I think, I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, I was a bit surprised to see Bitcoin being rated a 1-star also. I'm fine if it happens. Everybody has the right.
Hey, I could comment on a lot of this because I know a lot. I'll give you some factual information and try not to give anything too skewed here. So okay. That 1-star Bitcoin perspective is not the majority of what Pulsechain people believe or Hex people believe. I am unique in my perspective there. So just say that disclaimer. It's not as though the Pulsechain and Hex community hates Bitcoin. What actually I can't say most, but a lot of people from the community are actually OG Bitcoin people, because Hex was given away for free when it launched to Bitcoin holders. Anyone that held Bitcoin in a wallet was able to free claim Hex at the time that it launched. So some of those people got in at the initial price of Hex, and it went up 10,000x from the bottom. I don't remember what it was from the launch price. People like to say 10,000x, but that was from the very bottom to the top, but it went up tremendously from whatever the launch price was. And then some of those same Hex people took some of that Hex and used it to sacrifice for Pulsechain, which launched. And then those people received Pulsechain tokens. So you're seeing some of those same people that were OG Bitcoin people are a part of Pulsechain, because you could trace their money back through their initial free claim of Hex. So that's why you'll see a little bit of that ideology similarity actually in between the two communities. And its leader, Richard Hart, was an OG Bitcoin guy and a Bitcoin maximalist for a long time before he started his own projects. So he was someone that advocated at the beginning of Bitcoin for a long time and was calling out frauds like Craig Wright and all kinds of other people. So his Bitcoin maximalism community is still big. And they've carried that philosophy at a large part into this Hex and Pulsechain community as well. So they're very maximalist centered.
And if I may add something, and from an alternate perspective, from the opposite of Richard, right? Because that's I am, right? I do agree with that. However, I believe in the idea of things such as Monero and believing that Bitcoin is essentially the first of its kind, thus has built-in obsolescence, privacy issues, and so forth. So I do agree with not being as good as, for instance, Ethereum, and it's essentially obsolete over time and everyone's just buying the top. But I also disagree with proof of no work. However, the relations with Richard and so forth and so on. So there are a lot of varying points of views on Pulsechain and so forth. But we just don't like to circle jerk each other. We all like to be able to hear alternate opinions and things like that and discuss it.
Yeah, that's good. Because the thing that if we talk about politics in the US and just Facebook, the thing you tend to have a bias and a polarization. And
dude, and 100%. And if you talk to like me, like, dude, in America on Facebook, do you know who's on Facebook in America? They're 50-year-old fucking moms, dude. They're politicians. They are not reality.
Exactly.
America is we're not on Facebook. We're actually more diverse than like people think, but
that's good to know.
A lot of people in general that cryptocurrency to me is very akin to religion or sports fanaticism or something. People decide to buy into a narrative or a belief or ideology, and it doesn't necessarily have to be represented by facts or anything tangible. People that say, where's the utility? No utility. The biggest use case that crypto doesn't, the utility isn't what drives the value is Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin, I know that I'm biased and a hater, but objectively, it doesn't really have any unique utility outside of its security and the decentralized network. But as far as a payments processor and ability to run things on top of it, there's superior solutions elsewhere. But yet Bitcoin is still the king as just essentially being a decentralized payment network, even though everything else does what Bitcoin does. It just does it in the most secure way. So utility is
Bitcoin,
drives value.
Yeah. And Bitcoin is the worst at receiving payments.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, right? So I think that what excites me so much about the Pulsechain community and also bringing it closer to Cyrator is that strength and size of the community. I think that makes it, in my books at least, a top project. And actually the other thing I quite like about it is I think it's probably one of the most fun communities and fun chains that is around. I've been shown many things now, and I don't know if you want to comment on this, but it does seem like a lot of fun, and I think we can use a lot of that on Cyrator as well.
Pulsechain 100% has the best memes of any community in crypto, unmatched.
Yeah, great. Very nice. So do we have any other questions about Pulsechain and Cyrator, and also any fears around how that might lead to echo chambers or any kind of issues with diverse opinions? No? All good? All right. So let me quickly check what our next topic is. Second. I want to talk, I'm not sure if we have already touched on this, but a little bit about censorship, because we are saying that we are a censorship resistant platform. And I have personally, some of you don't know, but I've founded and I've run a social media platform together with, AJ is not on the call anymore, but we've done this together for 10 years. We created YouTube channels and Facebook pages with 8 million subscribers. We have over 2 billion organic views, and the content was mostly on mental health, but also on education. It was very exciting. Basically, people could send us their personal stories from all over the world. We got over 40,000 stories submitted, and some stories about from human trafficking survivors and really important stuff. And it went really well for a while, but ultimately we got heavily censored by YouTube, by Facebook, by all these platforms because their advertisers didn't want to be associated with any controversial or difficult content. Our journey to create Cyrator actually came out of a deep desire to build a platform that doesn't censor opinions just because they're controversial. We saw the value that you can bring if you can enable people to voice their opinions, as long as they not directly harm other people, as long as you're not bullying people online and things like that. So we have a very strong desire to be very censorship resistant, to allow opinions, whether we believe in them or not. The only thing that we will censor is, as I said, things that put people into direct harm. If you're bullying people, but also to some extent, if you're directly promoting or advocating for a scam or a rug pull and something like that. Of course, it's going to be quite difficult to tell when something should be removed, when something is harmful or not. But that's why we are not in charge of doing that. The community will be in charge of deciding what is harmful or not. We do have, I would say at this point, a bit of a rudimentary system that I've already explained. You asked that before, where people just vote. But we are planning a more and more detailed system, or we're building a more detailed system with several layers of review and also, appeals and things like that. I guess what I want to say about it will be a very important, it already is, and it will be a very important focus of the platform. It's a very important part that we don't censor. Any questions more about that, or is that clear? No question. Silence.
Do you have any idea about restricting too many people from a certain community from joining? Let's say this Pulsechain and Hex community got in front of a big influencer and a big audience and they adopted this. Would you have apprehensions about, say, approving 100 or 1,000 Hexicans or Pulsechans that just wanted to simultaneously join the platform?
Yeah, I personally don't. I can see that already now some of our analysts are quite opposed, right? And are maybe a bit scared about what's happening because the reputation that maybe Pulsechain has and things like that. However, we do have safety mechanisms in place. First of all, for me, quite simple. Analysts should be approved if they write genuine opinions, if it's clear that they're not just here to promote things, or if they're not multi-accounting and things like that. If they show in their application that you have a genuine opinion, you should be approved. So if an influencer promotes it and 1,000 Hexicans come and they all write high quality, by high quality, I don't mean rating stuff 5-star, writing very factual, interesting information that is relevant and people didn't know, I think that's what's going to get you approved. If 1,000 people do that, I don't mind at all that they all come from Hex or Pulsechain. The safety mechanisms that we have beyond that is that new applicants can only vote for approving new people after a month. So if these 1,000 people come in, they can now not overpower our system immediately and start approving people left and right that don't have these basic requirements anymore. So I think we're quite safe in this. Maybe some other people have some other opinions. Maybe Patrick and Dan.
Sounds like there's a lot of hesitance. It sounds like there's a lot of, I sense a lot of hesitance in your voice. Like you're maybe not prepared for what's about to come. And I'm going to just straight be up honest. With the weight that me and Proof hold, are you guys ready and prepared for real DeFi? And if it's not, I can sense it, the hesitance. With maybe you're consistent, then maybe not be ready. If that's okay, then fine. Maybe I'll tell them not to come. But we have the power to tell them to come.
I'm not sure if you heard hesitance in my voice. Maybe I was just thinking how to phrase what I'm saying, because
He's just giving you a hard time, man. Don't take Shane too seriously.
No, I think it's a good question. I just, as I said, I personally am not hesitant. I do know that some of our community members are hesitant. So we have to see how that plays out exactly. And as I said, if someone comes and gives honest and genuine opinions, that's good enough for me to approve them into the network. I've seen examples where other members are not like that. They do when they strongly dislike an opinion. Sometimes it seems they don't approve someone. So not everyone in the community is like that. We'll have to see how this plays out, right? So I'm not even hesitant. I'm excited about getting a lot of people in. And I think we'll be, I hope that gives you more context to your question. But maybe Dan, Patrick, do you guys want to say something? Because you are community members. You are some of the most experienced analysts. You've been here since almost the beginning. Maybe you want to say something about that.
But for me, it's not an attack on Pulsechain at all. For me, the worst community I've seen is the Bitcoin maximalist. To me, they are almost as worse as the traditional bankers because they think everything else is shit except things Bitcoin.
Yes.
So
delusional, man. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. But then imagine they come in large number, and then every analyst that apply and make review and rank highly something unrelated to Bitcoin get voted no, that they cannot come. Then you end up with just like a big pot of that is not diversified. I don't know if you can cluster community because there's no way you can know which community people belong to. But I think all
100%.
Sure to prevent one community from overpowering the system entirely.
I would like to maybe add here, sorry, just before quickly. So we have our safety mechanisms already. If these people come in, the existing community, and if they start basically bullying and downvoting and everyone who's saying something that's not Bitcoin maximalist opinion, we can actually still vote them out. You have a 1 month window where people can be voted out. So this massive community, this hypothetical community that comes in, they would have to play by our rules for about a month, right, before they can take us over. And I just think that's very highly unlikely that will happen first. Now, the second thing is, yeah, sorry.
I do have a question. I like my content. I try to invoke some comedy sometimes, some riffs, some back and forth sometimes. So if, let's say, for example, I said, maybe you look like you tucked your shirt into your socks. Is that something that would be edited? I feel like there should be censorship resistance, and we should be able to go back and forth and assault each other. That's part of fucking free speech and fun.
Yes, no, we want fun. We want more fun on the platform, and we want people. Actually, for a long time, people started to use AI a lot to improve their writing, and it just made things boring. So we told people, hey, just speak how you speak. Your review should be like you're telling a friend over a beer what you think about a project. And that's
okay,
fun.
Perfect. So if Proof says, hey, Rob, like I wouldn't buy Rob unless I would dig my own thumb up my ass. And I'd say, fuck you, buddy. We're good. We're not getting booted.
No, I think you should be totally good.
All right, thank you. That's my only concern because we like to have a good time on Pulsechain. If we are censored with memes and comedy, it's a bad time. We got to have fun. It's got to be a fun place to be. We got to be able to diss each other and hug each other afterwards.
I think so.
I agree with that sentiment, man. For the most part, you want to just let it go. Obviously, you don't want to allow people to threaten each other or do any type of violence or try to rally together to do anything harmful to people. But a little trolling and disrespect is part of the game.
Yeah. You can't call people N-words, but if you find some weird, clever way through different layers to do it sophisticatedly, I might get a pass.
Bad example, dude. Come on.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's no real harm to people. I think that's the bottom line of it. I also want to say here, people can actually edit their reviews, but we do have version history. So you can always go on a review and you can see any edit that has been made. So there should be full transparency.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I do want to add an additional thing here. So let's say this community did fool us for over a month and comes in and overpowers each other. We are still not fully decentralized yet, right? This is still mostly an off-chain Web 2 solution. And we're basically because it's such a complex thing, how to Twitter and Facebook and all these platforms are dealing with this question and how do you have constructive conversations online. And we keep tuning all these rules and mechanisms and so forth. So we are still in this very incubation phase. However, our plan is to eventually move everything on chain, where the reviews themselves are stored on chain, where of course people have to stake on chain to give them and report on chain and be slashed on chain. And all of these things will eventually be on chain. But
on Pulsechain, you're going to choose to use Pulsechain because the fees are so low here?
Let's see about that. I'm actually hoping there's a couple of things. I'm hoping that we will be multi-chain, so that various aspects of the platform on different chains. And we mentioned that we will have an AMA with CoinWeb. I don't know if you guys know CoinWeb, but I've worked with them. We've made videos for them, explaining their technology for a year. They are the first cross-chain layer 2 that I know of. They are integrated in 8 chains now. And they basically allow you to create an app that stores different information on various different chains. So let's say you can have an ID verification on one chain, and you can have your financial transactions on another chain. You can have your review data stored on a third chain, and it all gets combined on this cross-chain layer 2. Because this is going to take us probably a year or 2 or even more to move one aspect after another of our app on chain, we might actually work with a solution like that, where some aspects might be on Pulse and some other might be on different chains.
Tell CoinWeb to support Pulsechain. You talk to any of their executives, tell them we'd like some support for their community.
Yeah, so they don't yet. I've actually talked to the CTO and another guy from the last Thursday, and I've said many of the things that I recently learned about Pulsechain, so they got quite a bit excited. So we're going to have an AMA with them sometime soon, and then hopefully we discuss some of these things. But for them, it's easy. It's a layer 2, so they just need to, it takes a few weeks for them to integrate with a chain, and then anyone who builds on top of them can store transactions into the underlying chain through them. So yeah, it might be a thing that comes up. But this is a little bit what we're hoping, that a lot of, we've reviewed hundreds and almost 1,000 projects in the last 9 months since we soft launched. And many of them pre-sale projects that haven't made their decision yet. They don't have a chain yet. So we do see a steady stream of new projects, at least getting to know Pulsechain because of us.
Appreciate it. Love to see it, man.
I do have a question. Now, this seems to be somewhat of a forum-driven website. Is there any possibility we'd be able to upload small video clips?
Yeah, I don't think you can upload video yet. You might be able to do GIFs. Sadly, my developer and co-founder is not on right now. I just can't tell you yet. My guess is that we'll support it, just because it's fun to have some clips on there. We've built previous systems where we made it quite easy to put YouTube links and things like that.
Yeah, maybe 30-second videos of, for instance, TikTok clips or TikTok-like clips onto your websites, maybe explaining a crypto verbally or in video, that something wouldn't be easily portrayed via text.
Yeah, to have video processing and all of that ourselves, I think that will definitely be some time off, just because. One other thing about us is we're really, personally, I don't like VCs a lot. I think they are the cause of a lot of issues in the world. And one way for us to avoid a lot of VC money is to run a very lean operation. So we try to be as small as we can, so that we can be as free as we can. So things like video processing and stuff like that, we'll just maybe have to wait a bit, because we don't want to expand to a massive developer team and things like that.
I think that's probably the right idea.
Yeah, I understand.
Great. Let's see if we have any other important topics to cover. I mentioned future campaigns. Yeah, so it's not that now Cyrator is just Pulsechain, right? We want to cover all of crypto, right? We already have a section for a summit, BAO Summit. We've been partnering with them for about a year. So we will have many more sections like that. We're probably also going to have a section for ICP soon, maybe Polkadot and things like that. But yeah, just to make that clear, unless there's any questions about that or ideas, we can move on. I think that's it. So the last thing, for me personally, I think I see a huge value in having diverse opinions on the platform, literally in terms of deciding which crypto you might want to buy or not. Me personally, I've had very good returns buying projects that were recommended from our community members in the last year. I think we have a very good track record. I actually have a blog on Cyrator. I'll share it in here later where I describe that a little bit. But I think it's very hard to figure out whether, just like a normal business, if you want to buy stocks or whatever, it's very hard to know beforehand whether a project does well or not, or if they have good technology or all these things. But the value in having a very broad range of opinions is that you just understand much better how the market actually sees things. And I think that's in most cases actually much more important than understanding the fundamental technology of a project and so forth. I think even, especially for those people who might find it difficult to accept different opinions, I think it's good to keep in mind that by seeing what these other opinions are, you get a much better understanding of the market, which will help you make much better decisions. And one technical aspect that's important here is that if we have 100 opinions, let's say, or reviews about, let's say, Pulsechain, these don't all weigh the same. So we have this thing called super upvote. It's the little shield on the review. They're very limited. New analysts only get 2 super upvotes. Once you have over 100,000 cure, then you get an additional one for every 50,000 cure that you have, for a maximum of 7. So when you give these super upvotes, you're giving a lot of points to the writer, and you also get some points, and you have to write a comment of why you're super upvoting something. This aspect will also get more important with the new system that we're going to launch, because as you're super upvoting, you're not just supporting the opinion, you actually also have to fact check. And if later a review gets flagged and gets taken down for false information, you get slashed as well just for supporting that review. So, but long story short, in the future, when there's 100 reviews, let's say on Pulsechain, you'll come in and you'll see the top review that might have 100 super upvotes, and then the next review might have 30 super upvotes, and everything else maybe have 1 or 2 or something like that. So you'll be able to come in and see, 70% of people support this opinion, whereas 30% maybe support this other opinion. And then there's a bunch of other opinions after that don't really matter that much. So the bigger we get, the more decentralized we get. The idea is that you come in, and through this mechanism, you very easily understand how the market sees a certain project. Any questions about that? No? Cool. Great. I think that's about it. That's almost time. So unless you guys have something you want to add or any questions that you haven't asked yet, please ask now. Otherwise, we can call it.
Thank you very much for your time. I learned a lot. And
appreciate it.
I look forward to participating.
Awesome. Fantastic. Very nice to have you guys here. Dan, Patrick, any final words?
What you suggested earlier with the cross-chain, I think that's a pretty good setup maybe to avoid potentially the issue we discussed earlier. Because you could have some clusters or like subdomains.
Yes.
Because the thing, for me, I'm not super familiar with the Pulse ecosystem, but whoever is deep in the Pulse ecosystem can filter and rank project on the Pulsechain much better than anybody else. So they should not be interfered by people who have no clue about the chain.
Yeah.
Do you guys want me to tell you what Pulsechain is?
Please.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, so Pulsechain is an entire system state fork of Ethereum. So there was a snapshot, I believe the date was something like May of this year, and every balance that you held on Ethereum, whether it was an NFT or any tokens, anything that was staked, was copied. All of the smart contracts, all of its functionalities were copied and forked over onto Richard Hart's chain, which is called Pulsechain. Now, this Pulsechain is an EVM blockchain that operates identical to Ethereum. So any network upgrades that Ethereum gets pushed to it, the Pulsechain developers could push to Pulsechain as well. It should work alongside in tandem with that. there hasn't been any promises or guarantees, and there's not really much public knowledge about the dev work that goes on there, largely because probably Richard Hart has an active investigation with the SEC. So there's a little bit of obfuscation going on there. But the Pulsechain blockchain is the premier selling point about it is its super low transaction costs. So everything that you could do on Ethereum, you could do on Pulsechain. And I don't know that I would say on average, but at times the gas fees are more than 10,000 times cheaper than they are on Ethereum. So the idea is to incent people from Ethereum blockchain to maybe potentially bring their project to a chain where maybe it didn't make sense on Ethereum because the gas fees and transaction costs are so high that doing microtransactions, or maybe not even microtransactions, just a series of transactions that needs to happen today or daily or however, whatever time period, doesn't become economically feasible. So what Pulsechain can do is now give life back into failed projects that failed because of the Ethereum gas cost being so high. It also has faster block times, and it's highly decentralized from a validator standpoint. So there's a lot of positives about Pulsechain that was meant to really bridge. And the founder, Richard Hart, I believe, chose to fork Ethereum because that's where the most TVL is. That's where the most projects are, the longest developers, the most secure blockchain. So he took, instead of making something new and experiencing all of the bugs, he just forked something that worked perfectly well, and he changed the settings a little bit. But the key reason that this works out so well is it keeps the transaction fees are almost similar to ETH on a nominal perspective, but it's like 1,000,000 times the supply. So you'll pay 100 or something PLS, but 100 per transaction, but the 100 PLS costs you not even a penny to do. So this is the primary value proposition really is you could do everything that you could do on ETH here, but you could do it for way cheaper and faster.
All right. I do want to jump in here, PNW, and thank you for that. I think we could maybe end with a few minute kind of AMA on Pulsechain, because I've been aware of Pulsechain for a long time, and I actually am involved with PulsePad, which is, I know, Bluezilla, no real affiliation other than they're supposed to be your dedicated launchpad for Pulsechain. So I've had some hopes that something will launch there. And asking somebody that seems to be very informed, I've never really understood the full value prop that you talk about. This forking, I understand. You asked me a year and a half ago what I would invest in. It would have been any layer 1, layer 2 DEX that's native to a chain. Now I'm literally turning down opportunities to invest in layer 1s and layer 2s because there's so many. So this EV fork, literally, I must have 50 in my portfolio now. So I'm not so keen on that value aspect. Can you go a little deeper in what's the big deal about cloning all of my tokens? So for example, let's say I've got $5,000 worth of veracity on Ethereum, and you've now forked it, and I've got $5,000 worth of veracity on Pulsechain, but it's not really $5,000 worth. I can't bridge that back over and sell it. What am I doing there with these clone tokens?
Okay, so specifically for the clone tokens, you are not going to have, I don't think there's any case where, except for Hex token, it's actually more expensive on Pulsechain than it is on ETH. But you're not going to have the same dollar valuation on Pulsechain as you would have on Ethereum. You're just going to have the same amount of tokens. Now, what the value of those tokens is on Pulsechain is entirely dependent upon the liquidity pools that are provided for that asset. And for some projects that have done, and it's, to be honest, and for full transparency, it's the vast majority of projects on Ethereum have not taken or not adopted their Pulsechain copies for their community, have not really bridged over funds to give them value. But your valuation will just come from the community of Pulsechain users that provide liquidity, and then you can trade it across the multiple DEXs that Pulsechain offers. There's about 10 or so decentralized exchanges. The primary one is PulseX, which is Richard Hart's Uniswap or PancakeSwap fork. So you can then sell those and bridge those funds back to ETH by just getting a wrapped version of, say, wrapped Ether, and then just bridging it back over to ETH, and it will unlock with Ethereum, the real ETH.
So there are some primary tokens that bridge back over to the main EVM, but in this case, and it's safe to say that that veracity may be a 10,000th of the value, since using the same denominator that you're using in terms of the cost of gas and the token supply, correct? If at all that it has a liquidity pool, it might not even be tradable.
Yeah, and there's oftentimes it's not even tradable. And to be honest, that is probably more so of just like a marketing gimmick. And it's just you're giving away free money to people. Anyone, there's a big issue for anyone that wants to invest into those tokens or hold on to them. Because let's say that all of a sudden Veracity did get big adoption on Pulsechain and the community comes over and starts to support it and it gets near parity value, then people realize, hey, all I have to do is just bridge my funds and I can dump. And so that will make those charts very volatile, especially in this first year or so, even longer into launch. Primarily the value of this blockchain will be launching new startup projects, utilizing the same infrastructure that you could have done on ETH, but paying so much less for transaction fees. And there's such a great point about all the different layer ones, layer twos. There's so many of them. Who cares? It doesn't matter. That's what Bitcoin is showing you. And that's what Pulse has a real common similarity therein is the community around Pulsechain is so rabid and has a lot of big money players that are involved on it, focused on it, promote it. And right now, a lot of people are apprehensive because of that whole issue, but there is tons and tons of social engagement in this community. So if you develop something and you have a new startup and you want to come and launch it, are you going to launch it on Avalanche where, sure, the transaction fees are super low, but the amount of users on the chain is minimal and there's nothing really it would be difficult for you to go to that chain because what they commonly refer to as like a ghost chain or something. There's just not a lot of activity
I know
to harness there. This Pulsechain community is huge.
Yeah, I know I'm preaching to the choir because you're a dev as well. If you've read some of my work or you've maybe seen something, I make the analogy to the blockchain is like a road through the desert. There's nothing there. It's all about getting the community to build gas stations and malls and residential communities, and then the chain takes off. And there's been a lot of hype around Bitgert and Bryce, and there's been a lot of hype around Kronos and Crow and similar blockchains. So I understand the value you guys are proposing there with the community and the development and everything. That's probably the number one selling point, I think, for you guys. I never understood the token, which thank you for explaining that aspect. And I do think it's rather a marketing tactic as well. But okay, I appreciate you.
Yeah, an initial part of the selling proposition of it was maybe the thought that you could bond there. People would from Ethereum would bridge their tokens over and they would choose to trade the wrapped version of them on Pulsechain just because the fees are so much lower. If you could trade your Ethereum token, it's just a wrapped token on Pulsechain. And instead of paying $50 Uniswap fees, you pay 5-cent Pulsechain fees. You'd obviously prefer to do that. But what we've seen is that most of the communities have not bridged or wrap their tokens and then come over to this chain. That the original idea was to pair like wrapped Pepe from Ethereum with the copied version of Pepe from Pulsechain and pair them up to each other, and hopefully the liquidity of one would bring the other up, or the trading volume and activity of the other one would bond the liquidities together so that they could maybe start to close the spread and become closer to parity. But we've seen that hasn't really come to fruition, at least so far.
I think it's a lot of wishful thinking. It sounded like maybe a good idea, but didn't play out. But I do believe that
I'd agree.
Community strong enough to launch new projects. Could you just quickly, off the top of your head, name a couple of the more successful new projects, not parody projects, that have taken off on Pulse?
There has been a few projects that have launched successfully. The protocols work and stuff, but there's a lot of controversy around how they launched. But there's things like alternative dexes. There's a dex aggregator called Piteous that takes all orders from not every dex, but a lot of dexes, and it gives you the best order without slippage. It's a really good project. I invented a project, my proof of no work token, which was improvement upon reflection tokens, basically like the Safe Moon model that was so common amongst meme coins, where you have the native currency gets taxed and then redistributed. There was a lot of issues with that model where typically they were having harmful functions a part of the taxation, where they were taking dev taxes or marketing taxes and stuff, and then the users or the founders would just sell that into liquidity pools, hurt the people. But there's also something called a swap and liquefy function present in these tokens that has a harmful effect to the liquidity because it adds one-sided rewards when it's exercised. So I removed that function as well, and also developed a function as part of the contract that excludes liquidity pools from receiving reflections rewards. So this just makes the economic inefficiencies that cause inherent sell pressure due to one side of the rewards being added to pools from the reflections away. The token launched 4 or 5 months ago. We're still successfully trading the whole time. It's up above launch price, I think about 2x or so from now. So that's doing well. There's other wallet, internet money wallet provider. There's a few other good projects here. I'm struggling to think of.
I was going to mention the one that is essentially the premier of Pulsechain, the token that essentially has gone up the most, regardless of its controversy and so forth, which would be the HOA, which is the Hex Orange address, which is a meme off of the Hex OA, which is essentially a meme to distract Gary Gensler from looking at, how much hex did the HOA sell? None. There's multiple layers, and that one has essentially gone up quite considerably. That's probably one of the tokens you could look at on the chart on deck screen and say, oh, that's worked out.
I think of our community and how rabid the community is. It's just a meme token, basic meme token launched with extremely low liquidity. We're talking like a $50 market cap or something. And right now its current valuation is like over $1 million market cap, I believe. And that's a good example of how rabid the community is for there's other precedent or other projects that have done similar things like this. But that's not really anything special, unique for an innovation on the chain.
All right.
They're new projects.
Spin this a little differently too. Just and FYI, thank you for your introductions. I am a partner and curator, if you didn't know. Not one of the two co-founders, Mark or AJ, but I am partnered in the project and have a very passionate interest in its success and its mission to eradicate a lot of the problems that are in the industry. I say this, and I don't mean this, in any negative way, but my take on Pulse, and I don't have a bad opinion of Pulse, but I'm looking at it in terms of narratives and what's going on. And it seems to be a chain that is very centric to memes. And I would like to see, and I think this is what I hope was translated to you guys through Mark and previous conversations, is our ability to bring over other narratives. I would like to have heard you guys say something along the lines, we have projects that are working on decentralized storage. We have projects that are working on decentralized trading. Projects that are tackling some of these narratives in the market that are going to be the up-and-coming narratives that we need. Decentralized GPU or CPU farming, decentralized KYC or privacy. Some of these, if you
I got a good one for you. I just thought of was the Fetch Oracle, which is a fork of Teller Oracle, and they actually identified some exploit or bug. I don't know exactly how to define it inside of the original Teller code, and so they were actually contacted the team and let them know about it, the original Teller team, and made an innovation upon that, and they actually just launched a few days ago. But that was a nice project that has been looming and was in development. I agree. And they just got out there.
Yeah, that sounds great. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that's what we could bring to the table. We just we have a beautiful private review process, which wasn't touched on in here, but we talked to a lot of projects that don't know what chain they want to launch on. And one of the new narratives that I've been talking about for a while is DeSci, decentralized science. And we had a nice project come through that was looking for a chain, and it would have been great to pass them over to you guys and make the good use case that their app would be well received over there and have a vibrant community, et cetera. So hopefully there was a lot of talk, Shane, about being concerned about bringing your network our way, but this will be a two-way street. We do want to bring projects over to Pulse that can benefit with that. So hopefully that was understood in this.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. I think that you guys will be really pleasantly surprised at how engaged and accepting this community would be of new projects coming to support it. They're like desperate for it. And don't take that just because I couldn't give you a bunch. There's tons of other projects on it. Maybe just because I had a little trouble giving you a couple good ones off the top of the head, you could do more research on it. I'm just really focused personally on the meme side of things, because this is where the majority of the trading volume and activity is right now, as we're waiting for Richard Hart to get a settlement and more activities start to pick up over here. But this community is desperate for other projects. Give us use case. We want it and we'll accept it. And you'll be shocked at the engagement in the community, retweets, people join AMAs, live streams, videos. The people will come and they want to support. Definitely
awesome.
Encourage you to reach out to other things, bring in a Pulsechain.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Mark, I'll let you close us out.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot. I think this was very exciting. I hope a lot of other people can check out this AMA to see what we're going to do together. And yeah, I look forward to all these engaged community members soon discussing the same things. Have a good one.
Appreciate
Thanks
you guys.
so much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.